Hello everybody, this is a slightly unusual video in that it's one of my unscripted ones, and I'm not going to be talking about forecasting or analysing Nintendo in any way. I'm just going to be giving my impressions of the new Star Fox game. I have played about, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours of it. I've finished a couple of run-throughs and I'm deep into my third. I've played around a bit with the multiplayer as well, and I just wanted to talk a bit about it and explain my impressions of the game. It's not a review exactly. I'm not going to go into a deep dive on particular impressions of things, but I just wanted to talk about a few different aspects of it. So to give you a broad bit of background into me and Star Fox, I've been aware of Star Fox pretty much as long as it's been around. I didn't have a Super NES when I was growing up, or an N64, but obviously I was aware of the games. My brother in particular, I know, played a lot of Star Fox with his school friends, and so I was aware of the games. But to be honest, rail shooters weren't massively my thing. I did play a fair amount of Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon Zwei because we had a Sega Saturn. I love the Sega Saturn. But to be honest, even then, my brother and I kind of had a deal that he would take care of the Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon Zwei games, and I deal with the RPG stuff for Panzer Dragoon Saga, because that was a kind of division of labor that we both enjoyed in terms of those particular styles of games. And so, although I think I finished Panzer Dragoon Zwei, it's the first game previous to this that I've played extensively that is a full rail shooter. Having said that, I played lots of other kind of shooting type games, and it takes, in fact, lots of games I can't even remember the names of that I've played over the years, which have dogfight kind of elements to them. So it's really nice to actually revisit a genre that I haven't really given a lot of time to before, and to kind of see it with a fresh coat of paint. And I have to say, it is really, really good. I am absolutely loving it. And I don't think well, I know for a fact that I wouldn't have got into this in the same way if it weren't for the new version. Yes, technically it's been on the expansion pack, and the Star Fox 64 has been on the expansion pack. The original Star Fox and Star Fox 2 have been there a while. I have played with those games. I haven't played through those games, but I've dabbled around with them. But it's very difficult to go back and try to put yourself back into the shoes of where you were, 20, 30 years ago. And I remember when the N64 was new and Star Fox 64 was one of those games. I think it was called Star Fox 64 in the UK, but whatever it was called. But that game, particularly, there was also a Star Wars Shadow of the Empire game, which I don't think anybody talks about now, but that was absolutely so hype at the time. It looked amazing. I don't know if it actually was any good, but it was that period of time before Phantom Menace came out, and when they were re-releasing the original trilogy Star Wars games, there was so much Star Wars films. There was so much hype around Star Wars at the time, and so it just seemed like this absolutely massive title on the N64. And as I say, I was very, very happy with the Saturn. Absolutely loved my Saturn. But I could also see that the N64 was shaping up to be pretty special with a lot of these games that were coming out for it. So yeah, I really liked the idea of Star Fox. I always liked the characters, but it was not a title that I was ever going to spend any significant amount of money on, because I just thought, to be honest, it's probably not going to be my kind of thing. And that has held true until now. Now, you'll have if you go back to the Star Fox Direct video I did, you'll have my initial reaction to the look of the characters and the look of the world. And it probably took me about, I would guess, the length of that video for me to acclimatize to the designs. I know in the past they've talked about wanting to have kind of a Thunderbirds aesthetic, and this was much, much closer to realism. There was a risk, I think it could have gone a bit uncanny valley, but I think within minutes of seeing that, I was really into the design and playing the game. The look is absolutely incredible. Velen had done such a superb job with it. I absolutely love not just the characters, although they're so expressive and wonderful, but also the locations. I mean, Sol in particular, you really feel the heat, this sort of molten ball of exploding lava, or whatever it is that the sun's made of, that you're going around. And it's been quite appropriate here because there's been a massive heat wave in the UK as well, so it's really felt quite immersive, I've got to say. But the ice world, the way the light glints on it, and even stuff like the challenge gauntlet in space, and the oceans. I mean, there's some just incredible graphics here. And although I always remember when I was younger and we talk about these new systems coming out with their 3D graphics, and as young children, you sort of pompously go around and say, well, of course, graphics aren't everything. It's all about the gameplay, isn't it? But actually, no, the graphics are so important to making you feel really a part of it. And I think Star Fox has always been, well, not always, I suppose, with the more recent versions, but generally has been part of the real sort of graphical vanguard. It's been the kind of game which has really pushed the roof and made you go, okay, wow, I did not know consoles could do that. And even Star Fox 64 3D, that 3D element was a part of that. And so it is here. I know, yes, clearly there have been other more graphically compelling titles on other consoles, but I do think you're not going to find many games, many worlds that look as just lush and beautiful as Star Fox. It really does set a standard, I think, and I think it's something that Nintendo can be really proud of. It shows off what is evidently one of their greatest games in the best light, and a lot of that also is the music. There are a couple of moments where I thought, I'm pretty sure that is literally just a lift from Star Wars. There's that thing at the beginning where they sort of have the planet, and I'm sure that's something they use at the beginning of Star Wars. But generally speaking, it's just an absolutely mind blowing set of tracks. The energy of it, the propulsion of it is just, it hooks you in, it keeps you going. There's such an excitement, there's such an energy to playing it, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. The voice acting is also just top notch. I don't always take to some of the voice acting choices in games. Xenoblade, for example, I really like the cutscenes, I like the actors, but the repetitive battle chants kind of annoy me after a while. I tend to turn them off because I just don't need to hear the same things being said again and again. There is a little bit of that in Star Fox at times, particularly with the dogfights, but generally speaking, it doesn't feel repetitive yet. It might do, I guess, in time. But I just really like the discussions and the little sides that are put in, and I think the performers did a fantastic job. But generally speaking, for other games, I might put things on Japanese, but I think you kind of really need to have um, the voices here, so you're not distracted by text. You're just focused on what's going on. I mean, for something like Zelda, I don't speak Hylian, so I don't really mind if it's Japanese, even though I don't speak Japanese either. That to me feels more authentic in an odd way than having. I mean, I'm sure Patricia Summerset's a terrific lady, but something about her Zelda voice doesn't quite work for me in the same way as the Japanese voices do. Um, Controls, the mouse controls are taking me a bit of a while to get to grips with. I quite like them, but flicking between the two, it takes me a long while to get used to controls. I'm not enormously good with that sort of stuff, so I need to experiment with the mouse controls more because I really want to like them, and also it's finding a good surface that works for me consistently. The other controls are fine. I mean, I kind of feel like it would have been nice if they'd find a way to, and I know it would have been very controversial after Star Fox Zero, but it would have been lovely to find some way to incorporate true motion controls into the game. I actually really like things with motion controls, particularly for this kind of title, but I kind of understand why they didn't go for it. I don't find the controls. I mean, I think they are about as intuitive as they could be, given what they are. But I'm not someone who naturally takes these kinds of things, and that's why I am enormously grateful. And another thing that was really key about this purchase for me is the availability of an easy difficulty setting. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh no, you shouldn't be playing it on anything but at least the normal difficulty, if not the hard difficulty. And I've mentioned before in previous videos, I literally do not give a hoot about having some kind of gritty challenge. That's just not something that interests me in terms of gameplay. I want to experience something like Star Fox, and yeah, obviously I want to have fun and I want to feel like there's some resistance in the gameplay, but fundamentally I just want to enjoy myself and relax. I don't want to be mega challenged. I'm not going to be practicing to be some kind of TIE fighter in space or something. So I just want to kind of enjoy the experience of the game. Now, having said that, now that I have a feel for it and I am enjoying it, I think there's a decent chance that I might go back and try with a normal difficulty setting and up the challenge a bit. I really like that those difficulty settings are there. It's something that I really appreciate, and I know some people look down on that, and I don't care, basically. But I also think it's really nice that the people can access it at their own pace, that the challenge difficulty setting is there. So, I'm all for lots and lots of different options for games. Um, there are still things that I haven't really been able to access. There's that thing in Meteor where you're going through different energy fields. I mean, to be fair, I last played that quite early on, so I do need to go back to that. But I tried that, a good dozen times and couldn't quite get the knack of getting through all six, or seven, or however many there are. Um, let's pivot now, though, to some of the deep spoiler territories, because I want to talk about the game and I want to talk about some of the narrative choices, and particularly I want to talk about the level of immersion. And it really feels like you're playing a movie that takes shape. And actually, in a way, I think it plays better from that point of view if, like the first time I was playing it, where you don't actually quite know what's going on, because there's a bit of dramatic tension to the fact that you've messed things up. And now it never turns around and says, oh, you've completely mucked this up. But you get the sense of, actually, this is not going to be quite as easy as you thought, and things were kind of, you are quite up against it. Uh, Oddly, the more high challenge, or I guess the proper path, the one with the final ending where you get the credits, that one feels a lot smoother, because obviously each time Fox is being told, oh yeah, you did brilliantly and you solved all those problems. But I quite like the fact that there's a bit of challenge, a bit of texture, particularly Slippy getting shot down and the team rallying around to rescue him. There was some real heart to that, and I absolutely loved it. I like the fact that Fox's relationship with Pepper isn't completely placid. He's a heroic character, but he's also a mercenary. And after all, his dad died on one of Pepper's missions, so there's a little bit of grit there. And also, the lines, the writing is superb in places. He's just incredibly funny. There's a line, and this is deep, deep spoiler territory, but in Venom 2, where he goes to Andros something like, this isn't the kind of face-off I was expecting. And that just had me absolutely hooting. But there were lots of great lines. I can't list them all, but I really just enjoyed the writing and the performances in the game. But overall, I was just deeply impressed with what Velen and Nintendo have done with this title. And don't get me wrong, I realise that the heart of the game is the original, and that was obviously amazing. And probably that's a reflection on me, that I didn't really get into it to the same degree that I should have done. And maybe if it had an easier mode, maybe if I'd had an N64 at the time, I probably would have got a lot deeper into it than I did. As I say, I know lots of people who are very, very into Star Fox, spoke very highly of it. But honestly, as much as I like the Nintendo Switch Online games, and there are lots of games that are on there that I think, oh, those look really good, I don't always have the patience to fiddle around with the games, which just feel a little bit dated now. So having this be the most lavish, as far as I can tell, faithful and caring and beautiful and seemingly authentic version of the game that you could imagine, I think that means the world. It's given me a completely different, game that I particularly love. It's definitely going up there with my top Switch 2 games, alongside Bonanza and Metroid Prime 4. But I just think it's a superb title, and I am really, really pleased that Nintendo released it, and I hope it does incredibly well. And I really hope it launches Star Fox into a new category beyond what it's been for the longest time, where it can have long-term success and we can see multiple different titles. It's beautiful, emotional, funny, dramatic. You get the sense of it being a team. And I should say about the multiplayer, I really enjoyed the multiplayer. I'm absolutely terrible at it, and I always feel that feeling that I have with Splatoon, where I'm like, okay, well, there's four people here, and I'm the one that's letting the side down, but you know what? I have fun. And I think the diversity of the planets in each run feels different and amazing. And it just builds up a real rhythm. I just can't say enough nice things about this game. I just think it's a really lovely title, and I am just so pleased with what they've done. I expected to really enjoy it. I didn't know if I'd love it or if I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's fine for a rail shooter. I kind of felt like I might just say, well, I appreciate what it is, but it's not quite for me. But that's not the case. I really understand why people love these kinds of games. And there are times where I found it a bit challenging, but the game has offered me enough slack that I can get into a groove with it. And I kind of expect I'll be playing Star Fox for quite a while because there's a lot of fun stuff to experiment with, a lot of fun stuff to see. And also, I just want to experience it multiple times because it's just a lovely game. Okay, thank you so much for watching. This has been an odd sort of video, but obviously there will be more normal content coming up soon. If you are interested, do check out the Patreon. But otherwise, I shall say see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.